Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. Greenville, South Carolina, this is my home. I was born and raised in a little place called Nicholtown. And I love Nicholtown. And what shapes me from the bottom of my heart was the community leaders when I was growing up in Nicholtown. And every time I see Councilman Ken Gibson, I think of life. And, his father, they gave a lifetime for me to be here today. When I think of Councilman Lillian Brock Freeman, I think of Lila, her mother, who has a beautiful statue of her. And I used to go over to the community center. And believe it or not, I was given several opportunities to work for the city. I worked in the recreation department. A young lady by the name of Miss Thelma Young, Harry Chancellor, gave me an opportunity to work there. I run the summer program there, and when I was in college, I would come home and work there in the evenings. And kudos to the IT department. So happy for you. Because I worked for the IT department at the city of Greenville. Right out of college, that was my first professional job is in the IT. A gentleman by the name of Jim Faree gave me an opportunity to work there. Bill Workman was the mayor at that particular point in time. So I worked for the city of Greenville on a couple of occasions, and it's the joy of my life. To our beautiful mayor, thank you so much, and congratulations on your 8th victory. So happy for you. You've done a tremendous job with this city. As I travel all over the country, I talk about my hometown of Greenville, South Carolina. And I've seen a clip that one of my best friends, Walter Davis, spoke here several years ago, talk about bragging rights of the city of Greenville. Walter and I grew up in Nicholtown together, worked with his father at his church, and he's so correct. The city of Greenville, everywhere I go in the world, is a tremendous leader. And it's because of this table here and the leadership. We thank you so much. Congratulations to the new city manager. I'm so proud of you. Nashville is a beautiful city, but we love Greenville. Okay, I love Nashville. Assistant City Manager Brandon, thank you for the invitation to be here, and I really appreciate that. And Tamika is nothing but true professionalism. I worked with her for the last 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a couple months actually, and she was always on point and made it easy for me to be here. I don't know if you noticed, there's 3 pictures in the back when you first came in. Did you all notice the pictures? There's 3 pictures, and I'm going to talk about a young lady by the name of Alice Childs. I call her Angel Alice. And I'm going to if you didn't see the pictures coming in, make sure you look at the pictures on the way out. Because this is a young lady that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, okay? I want to ask you a quick question, by show of hands. How many of you read the obituaries? Raise them high, okay? Do you read them daily? How many read the obituaries daily? Raise them high. How many read them occasionally? Raise them high. I occasionally find myself reading the obituaries because at my age, I'm losing a lot of friends. So I want to know, who funeral I need to go pay tribute to, and others, so I read them. And it made me think of a poem, Glenda, that I want to share with you. It's called The Dash. You may have heard of The Dash. And The Dash is by a young lady by the name of Linda Ellis. And it's about what you do between the time that you were born to the time that you die. And we're going to talk about Joseph. I call him Joe. I met him when I was a teenager, and he was fantastic. And we're going to talk about Martin Luther King as well. And the reason we're going to talk about these 2 individuals, because this breakfast is in honor of both of them, and I would not be here today if it wasn't for their service above self. And that's the theme. service above self. Mayor and city council, they're extraordinary individuals. Law degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, they can be out making trillions and millions of dollars. But they chose to give their time to this great city and you, the employees. So the poem goes a little like this. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noticed that first claimed the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what matters most of all was a dash between the years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and how many of those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the houses, the cash. What matters how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you like to change? For those never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel. And be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the purpose in our lives like we never loved them before. If we treat each other with respect and more than wear a smile, remember this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life actions to rehash, would you be proud of the thing they say about you and how you spent your dash? So when I was preparing for these remarks this morning, I thought of that poem because Joe spent his dash giving back to others. That's the way he lived his life. When I was at the city of Greenville, right out of college, I had a couple mentors. One was a gentleman by the name of Charles Gardner, and the other one by Ernest Adams. And they would take me around when I was 22, 24 years old to meet the other city managers because I worked in the IT department. And when I went over to see Joe at the sanitation department, he was larger than life. He was jovial. He was fun. But everybody knew Joe was serious about his business. And you didn't cross Joe. And he didn't care who you were. He didn't care about John DeLay. He didn't care about Max Heller. He didn't care about anybody. What Joe said stood. You come from a great family of educators. There's Beck Middle School. There was Beck High Panthers when I used to go up and sit on the hill to watch them play football. We couldn't get in. We had to sneak in the back door, but don't tell anybody about that. But it was a fun time. So I called Charles Gardner. I said, I'm going to talk to the city of Greenville employees, and I want to know a little bit about Joe Beck, Joseph Beck. We call him Joe. And he told me a story that I could not stop laughing for years, for days. Everybody knows what Low Water Apartments, right? You remember Low Water Apartments? Well, there was a big tree over there. And there were some guys over there, they were smoking marijuana, and they were playing dice. And Joe said, you all got to leave this area. And he came back a couple of days, the guys were back there again. He said, you got to stop doing what you're doing, you got to leave this area. So Joe went back, checked again. So we went back to the department, this big oak tree, and said, I want you to go over there and cut that tree down. So they went over and cut the tree down. Joe did not have a permit to cut the tree down. Cut the tree down. he called John DeLay, and he told John DeLay what he did. And John DeLay said, why did you get a permit? Why did you cut the tree down? Because I asked them to leave, and they didn't leave. So whatever you want to do to me, whatever consequences I got to suffer, I'm willing to suffer the consequences. But that's Joe in his own righteous self. He was a leader. He had a vision. Our mayor just told you he wanted the shed, the sanitation department, moved out of there. He would be proud today of the leadership of this team and the shed being moved to a beautiful new area. That's Joe. He put service above self. Joe loved everybody. But most especially, he loved his employees. And as I prepare for this speech, I'm doing all this research, and Joe was over sanitation and environmental. And we talked about Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King was murdered in Memphis, Tennessee. Why was he murdered? Why was he in Memphis, Tennessee? He was there to help the poor, and especially the sanitation workers. Joe started this breakfast way before there was a Martin Luther King holiday. His vision, his passion, his love for people is second to none. Service above self. So Martin is down in Alabama, where he spent a lot of time, and to help the poor and the sanitation workers. Now, 90% of the sanitation workers were poor. And that's the reason he left Atlanta, Georgia, to go to Alabama. He went to Alabama for a second reason. And you can read it, and I hope that everybody in this room go read it. I consider it the third greatest writing of all times. You have our great Constitution. You have the Declaration of Independence. But I think the third greatest writing of all time is the letter from the Birmingham jail. Read the letter from the Birmingham jail. And it is the letter that Martin Luther King got a call in Atlanta. He said, we're having some unrest down here in Alabama. We need you to come. There's a gentleman by the name of Bull Connor. We need you to come to Alabama. So Martin and his team takes off to Alabama. And lo and behold, there was social unrest. Well, they put Martin Luther King in jail because he was an outside agitator. So while Martin was in jail, there's 20 ministers, there was 19 ministers and one rabbi, wrote Martin a letter and say, Martin, thank you for being here, but we don't need your help at this particular point in time. And we should wait. We should wait. And Martin said, if I wasn't in jail with nothing else to do, I wouldn't even respond to this nonsense. So Martin penned a letter back to them. He said, hey, wait me never. And there's a passage in the letter from the Birmingham jail where there was some advertisement going on of a little park that was going to be open called Fun Town. And this little 6-year-old black girl asked her daddy, I want to go to Fun Town. Can I go to Fun Town? And the daddy told her, no, you can't go to Fun Town. Why can't I go to Fun Town? And he had to pull her aside because of the color of your skin. You cannot go to Fun Town. And the little girl began to cry. Her eyes welled up. Tears start rolling down her cheeks because she could not go to Fun Town. And he had to explain that to her. And you can start seeing within her little mind an inferiority complex begin to develop at that particular point in time. Well, I had a similar incident. When I was living in Nickeltown, I loved to play baseball. And I went to Cleveland Park to play baseball with my little glove on my right hand, holes in my jeans, and it was right there when I wanted to play baseball. There was some kids, they were white kids. They didn't have enough players to play. But you know what? They still would not let me play. And I would never, ever forget that moment that I could not play a game that I love, a baseball, in Cleveland Park. The city of Greenville is an amazing place. Look at Unity Park. You go there every single day. There are people from all over the world, all shapes and sizes, different colors, playing together. It is a magnificent concept. And it would not have occurred if it wasn't for the leadership of this city and you, the employees, that make it happen every single day. Give yourself a hand. So I'm here to tell you today that things are so much better than they was many, many years ago, but we still have a long ways to go. And I would say, Mayor Knox White, you're absolutely right, that this is the best Martin Luther King breakfast in the city. There'll be others tomorrow. Dorothy's going to be at one. And there'll be a whole program this week. But there's no other organization that brings all of their employees together and say, we appreciate you, despite the color of your skin. We really, really appreciate you. So for that, kudos to the city. So I'll talk a little bit about Joe Beck, service above self, the way he loved his employees and how he gave back. I talked a little bit about Martin, that I would not be here today if it wasn't for the Joe Becks and the Martin Luther Kings. There's no way. Ken knows that I have lived a blessed life. I grew up in Nickeltown, single mother, head of four, first in my family to ever attend college, on a basketball scholarship, 4 degrees, and I never paid for a single one of them. That is a blessing. I work for big corporate America, where I travel all over the country, and some outside of the country. I moved to New York City. I worked there for 4 years, and I wanted to go home. And home is Greenville, South Carolina. You look at the numbers and the number of people that are moving into Greenville, South Carolina. It's staggering. If you're anywhere in America, if you're anywhere in the world, where do you want to be? You look at the border. Right now, there's a big debate about the border. Look at Ellis Island. Look at Canada. You look at every border in America that will give their life to be where we are. Think about that. And if you're in America, if you live in America, decide, you want to live in the Midwest? You want to live in the South? Or you want to live on the West Coast? I choose the East Coast. And if I choose the East Coast, do I want to live in New York City, the North, or do I want to live in the South? I choose the South. Greenville, South Carolina is the #1 city, in my opinion, in the world. And it's because of you and me that make this city what it is today. So I want to talk about one other person, and then I'm done because they put me on a time limit. I can talk to you all day and all night. There's one other person, her name is Alice Brizard. Alice Childs Brizard. You see, Knox and I used to work out at the same gym with Phil, and he was more dedicated than I was, right? We used to work out at the same gym. A gentleman by the name of Phil Johnson, who's amazing. And I shedded a few pounds, maybe about 18, 19 pounds. I'm feeling good about myself. The goal was to get back to my college basketball playing days. And I'm on the right track. And every time I go see my doctor, I had gained weight. And I said, I really got him this time. He can't tell me what diet to get on. He can't tell me to work out. He can't tell me anything. I got it. And I go in and I take my complete physical. And I go home. And my wife said, where's your lab work? I said, Jackie, don't even worry about it. The doctor said, keep doing what I'm doing. I'm feeling good. I'm looking good. I'm ready. She said, where's your lab work? I need to see your lab work. She's about like your mother, right? And so I had to get the lab work. And she's a nurse by training. And when I got the lab work, she said, your kidneys are failing you. I said, what are you talking about? My kidneys are fine. She said, no, look at this number. Your creatinine is a 7. I said, well, what should it be? It should be a 1. I said, Jackie, I'm fine. I feel great. I'm fine. She said, no, we need to get this retested. Call the doctor, retest. He put me on some medication, check out in 3 months. It's at a 17. My kidneys are shot. I'm at stage 4 renal failure. What did I do? I need to do dialysis. Well, I don't want to do dialysis. I visited a dialysis clinic, and I was horrified. What did I do? I never smoked. I don't do anything. I've never done drugs in my life. Found out it was hereditary through my father, who'd never been in my life. Thanks for the gift, right? So we're on this journey, and I didn't believe the doctor. So I got 7 opinions. 7. They tell you get 2, I got 7. I went to the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. I went to Charlotte. I went to Duke. I went all over the place. Thank you. I went all over the place to get this second opinion. They said, you got renal failure. It's stage 5. It's no time to do a biopsy. You got to start dialysis or you're going to die. So I started dialysis. And I did dialysis for 14 months. It's the hardest thing I ever done in my life. It took me 8 to 10 hours a day just to stay alive. It was horrifying. My wife was there every step of the way. I would go to work. I would come home, do dialysis, go to work, come home, do dialysis, go. From 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, I was doing dialysis 5 times a day. Takes about an hour, 2 hours. All the doctor's appointment, this, that, and another. A friend of mine called me, and she said, I hadn't seen you in a couple of years, let's get together. And I said, okay, let's get together. So we got together for breakfast at Cracker Barrel on Woodruff Road. How you doing? I said, I'm fine, I got a little problem. She said, what's your problem? I said, I got to have a kidney transplant. She said, what? I said, yeah, I got to have a kidney transplant. She said, I'll give you a kidney. I said, you give me a kidney? I thought she was cuckoo for Cocoa Pops, and that's what the young people say. Yeah, so I left the subject alone. 2 days later, when she got back to Atlanta, she said, send me that information for Duke. I sent it to her. She called Duke, and at the end of the day, she gave me a kidney. December the 5th, 2016, I had a kidney transplant. And when she called me, she asked me in October, can you do December the 5th? And I just started crying. I couldn't stop crying. She texted me last night. She's a big Hawks fan. You see them Hawks? She's so funny. 7 days before the kidney transplant, she would call me and leave me a voicemail message. Woo woo! 7 days to the kidney transplant. 6 days. Woo woo! 6 days to the kidney transplant. And then on the day of, I'm driving up with my wife. She called me in the car. She said, "You on your way?" I said, "I'm on my way." And she said, "I'm on my way too." So I go up to there she is. I'm in one bed, she's in another bed. They take her back, take the kidney out. It's a teaching hospital, so they give it to students, and they bring it over on ice, and they plug it in, and it starts working right away. That is service above self. And I've asked myself 100 times, would I have done that for a friend? Would I give you a kidney? By the way, she's Caucasian. I want you to see her beautiful picture when you leave. Her name is Angel Alice. At one time, we wouldn't even talk about it. She didn't want to talk about it because she didn't want to take credit for saving my life. 1 year rolled around, she said, "I think we ought to tell the world, and I think we ought to help others that need kidney transplant." So there's about 7 people that I've worked with to help them get kidneys because somebody helped me. I'll leave you with this. 1 year anniversary, my wife threw a big party. My doctors came down from Duke. My nurses came down. My friends got together. We all had a great time. And I finally got the nerve to ask her the question that I want to ask her. And I said, "Why did you give me a kidney?" You know what she said? "I gave you a kidney to save your life because I didn't want to come to your funeral." Thank you.